There's a reason why certain phrases have entered into common parlance. And one of them, which we'll all be familiar with, is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Yeah. It's actually the emblem for the Fabian Society, denoting the slow creep of Fabian socialism or cultural Marxism into society. But wolf in sheep's clothing also describes what is proposed for Oxford. And today is a very important day. History is watching, because it's Oxford today and it's everybody else's town and city tomorrow if what is proposed here is allowed to succeed. So a wolf in sheep's clothing describes something which appears innocent and harmless on the surface in how it's presented, but is actually deeply malevolent and harmful when you strip away the surface. That describes what's going on here, right? We can see that what is being proposed for Oxford is nothing about worthy, noble causes such as protecting the environment, zero carbon emissions, sustainable development, and all these other appeals to emotion with which it's been presented. These are tactics, psychological weaponry employed by the advertising industry and perfected by Edward Bernays, the master of propaganda and public relations. That's how this is being presented. We know better. We know, as we've heard from many of the speakers, and Jasmine summed it up brilliantly, that this is just a stepping stone towards the New World Order nightmare future that the psychopaths have lined up for us. But they're not going to succeed. Right? There's a reason why Oxford has been chosen as the blueprint for all of this. I know a thing or two about this city. I was born here. I grew up in the area. Used to work on Fox FM, for anyone that remembers that, back in the day. DJ'd at the Park End Club. But more recently, I've worked as a private hire driver. And I used to have in the back of the car people like big pharma executives, lecturers and professors from the university. And I would hear some of the conversations that went on in the back of the car. Oxford has been selected because it's perceived as a place which is very system-minded, where people listen to establishment sources. But I would suggest that they've made a tactical error with this one, and that they've overreached. And the great turnout we see here today is indicative of that. When the reality of what these 15-minute cities really are going to mean for people in their regular daily lives hits home and the penny drops, there is going to be massive resistance to the attempted theft of our rights and freedoms. In George Orwell's 1984, which seems like a fitting story, the character O'Brien says to Winston Smith, "If you want a vision of the future, Winston, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever." I say to hell with that vision of the future. I have two potential visions of the future myself. In one, we're all standing around in a Soviet Cold War era gulag in the exercise yard, looking at each other, scratching our heads, saying, how the hell did we end up here? In the other vision of the future, the one which I prefer, at some point we're all sitting with our grandchildren on our knee, and they're saying to us, "Granddad, Grandma, what were you doing in the early 2020s when the psychopaths attempted to take away our future and plunge us into this New World Order nightmare. And we can look them in the eye and we can say, sweetheart, I was doing everything I could with every fibre of my being to resist it. And you know what? We put it down. Our generation put down this threat. I want to be able to say that, and I believe we all will. We need to say that we saw what was coming, and we said, you want to do what? Not on our watch. Not on our watch. The answer is no. Thank you.